An aerial shot of Manhattan at dawn. The skyline glows in soft gold as the camera pushes toward a sleek, modern skyscraper. At the very top, etched in gold, Bennett Global Industries. Floor-to-ceiling windows frame the city below. The office is minimalist but commanding, white marble floors, contemporary art worth millions, and a single white orchid resting on an otherwise empty desk. Becky Bennett, 26, stands at the window. Her natural hair is pulled into an elegant updo. She wears a tailored Armani suit that costs more than most people's annual salaries. Her posture is poised, powerful. But her eyes, restless. Her phone buzzes on the desk. Board meeting, 10 minutes. She glances at it. She doesn't move. A knock interrupts the silence. "Come in," she says calmly. Marcus Chen, her CFO, steps inside holding a tablet. He looks efficient. Slightly tense. "Becky," he begins, "the board is assembling. The Kong Luxury Hotels acquisition, they want your final recommendation." She turns slowly to face him. "How much?" she asks. $200 million. The number hangs in the air. "It's a significant investment," Marcus continues. "But the numbers are strong. Kong Luxury Hotels has properties in 12 countries. Revenue growth is steady. Market expansion is promising. I've read the reports," Becky cuts in smoothly. Marcus pauses. "Then what's the hesitation?" She walks to her desk and opens a folder. Glossy photographs spill across the marble surface, lavish hotel lobbies, smiling executives, Tam and Kong shaking hands at ribbon cuttings. "These are press photos," she says quietly. "Staged. Curated. They show me what Tam and Kong wants me to see." Marcus frowns. "We've done 6 months of due diligence. Financial audits. Legal reviews. Market analysis. Paper tells you how a company performs," Becky replies firmly. "It doesn't tell you who a company is." She closes the folder gently. "My father built Bennett Global from nothing," she continues. "He used to say, 'Becky, before you trust someone with your money, watch how they treat people who can do nothing for them.'" Marcus studies her. "What are you suggesting?" There's a long silence. Then a decision settles across her features. "Push the board meeting," Becky says. "Tell them I need 3 months." 3 months. Marcus exclaims. Kong is expecting an answer but while he was still responding, Becky interrupted. "Tell them I'm conducting a personal due diligence." Marcus blinks. What does that even mean? Becky turns back to the window, Manhattan stretched beneath her like a chessboard. "It means I'm going to find out who the Kangs really are. I'll give them my response in 3 months. 3 months earlier, the power suit is gone." In a modest Brooklyn apartment with exposed brick and second-hand furniture, Becky stands in front of a cracked mirror. The cold luxury of her office feels like another lifetime. Now she wears simple jeans and a plain white blouse. Her hair is pulled back into a practical ponytail. No jewelry. No makeup. No armor. On the bed behind her lies a manila folder labeled, Kong Hotel Employment Application. Beside it sits a simple name tag. Maria Santos. Becky picks it up slowly, tracing the letters with her thumb. Maria Santos, she murmurs to herself. 26. No college degree. No family. No one, just a helpless black lady who wants to survive. An identity built to disappear. She pins the name tag to her blouse and looks at her reflection again. "Just a cook," she says quietly, taking a deep breath thereafter. Her real phone buzzes on the nightstand, sleek, expensive, connected to boardrooms and billion-dollar decisions. She ignores it. Instead, she reaches for a cheap prepaid phone, the kind bought with cash and no questions asked. She studies the woman in the mirror one last time. The woman staring back could be anyone. A nobody. And that's exactly what Becky Bennett needs to be, a nobody. The Kong mansion rises from the Hamptons coastline like a declaration of power, white columns, endless glass, gardens trimmed with obsessive precision. Luxury cars gleam in the circular driveway like trophies on display. A modest service van pulls up to the back entrance. Becky steps out, clutching a small duffel bag that supposedly contains everything she owns. For a moment, she forgets to breathe. The CEO in her surfaces instinctively, assessing security cameras, counting windows, measuring distance between exits. She evaluates the property the way she would a corporate acquisition. Then, she shuts that part of herself down. Her shoulders lower. Her expression softens. She walks toward the servants' entrance. Downstairs, the glamour disappears. The servants' quarters are all fluorescent lights and metal lockers. Staff move quickly, eyes lowered, conversations hushed. No one lingers. Mrs. Park waits near a desk, clipboard in hand, her silver hair swept back tightly. Her gaze lands on Becky and does not waver. "You are Maria Santos?" "Yes, ma'am," Becky replies, her tone respectful, her head slightly bowed. Mrs. Park circles her slowly. No references. No prior experience in a professional kitchen. "Why should I hire you?" Becky keeps her voice measured. "I'm a hard worker, ma'am. I learn fast. And I need this job like my life depends on it." Mrs. Park's eyes narrow slightly. "Where are you from?" There's the faintest pause before Becky answers. "I'm Brooklyn, born and raised, though from an African mom." Mrs. Park writes something down. "The Kong family demands perfection," she explains. "You will speak only when necessary. You will stay in the kitchen unless called. You will not make mistakes. Mrs. Kong is particular." The word lingers like a warning. "I understand," Becky says quietly. Upstairs, the mansion is blinding in its luxury. Crystal chandeliers shimmer. Italian marble floors reflect everything like glass. Becky keeps her eyes lowered, but she sees it all. The Monet in the hallway. The imported vases. The tension in the staff's shoulders. Mrs. Park explains that Mrs. Kong expects breakfast at exactly 8. Coffee at 140 degrees. Fruit sliced evenly. Presentation flawless. Before she can finish, a door swings open. Isabella Kong steps out in silk and diamonds, irritation radiating from her like perfume. Behind her trails a young kitchen assistant, tears streaking down her face. "What did I tell you about the plating?" Isabella snaps. The garnish goes to the left, not the right. "How many times must I repeat myself?" The girl stammers an apology. "I don't pay you to think," Isabella cuts in sharply. "I pay you to follow instructions." Then her eyes land on Becky. And just like that, Becky feels herself being sized up and dismissed. "Another one," Isabella mutters. "They never last." She steps closer. Too close. "Get her a proper uniform," Isabella tells Mrs. Park. "And do something about her hair. It's distracting." Becky keeps her expression neutral. Inside, she is already calculating. The days that follow teach her more than any financial report ever could. At dawn, Becky prepares breakfast with mechanical precision. Isabella inspects it like a general reviewing troops. "You missed a spot," Isabella murmurs one morning, deliberately nudging a plate half an inch out of alignment. Another day, as Becky serves coffee, the cup tips, making the hot liquid spill across her uniform. The help is so clumsy these days, Isabella sighs into her phone, not even glancing at her. Becky does not flinch. She does not react either. She cleans the spill silently, her hand burning beneath the fabric. At night, when the kitchen finally empties, she pulls out a small notepad she keeps hidden. "Staff turnover, 4 cooks in 6 months, she writes. Why does he allow this? One evening, long after the house has quieted, Becky steps into the library under the pretense of tidying up. Leather-bound books line the shelves from floor to ceiling. First editions. Rare collections. For a second, she forgets who she's supposed to be. She pulls out a copy of The Great Gatsby and opens it gently. Fitzgerald. Interesting choice. The voice makes her turn sharply. Taman Kong stands in the doorway, dressed simply, silver at his temples, his presence far softer than the mansion suggests. "I'm sorry, sir," Becky says quickly, lowering her gaze. "I was just cleaning, never knew when the book caught my interest." You're not in trouble, Tammin assures her, stepping inside. My father gave me that copy. He used to say Fitzgerald understood something important: wealth and worth aren't the same thing. Becky says nothing. Mrs. Park tells me you work harder than anyone here, he continues. She also says my wife can be demanding. Mrs. Kong has high standards, Becky replies carefully. I try my best to meet them. Tammin studies her a moment longer than necessary. My father was a janitor, he says quietly. Cleaned office buildings for 40 years. He told me the person holding the mop sees more truth than the person in the corner office. They see everything. He moves toward the door, then pauses. If things ever become too difficult, my door is open. When he leaves, Becky remains standing in the center of the room. This wasn't what she expected. She pulls out her notepad. Tammin Kong, anomaly. Further observation required. She stares at the words. Then slowly crosses them out. Tammin Kong, Goodman. Why is he still here? A wall of monitors glows with every corner of the estate. Dave Morrison sits before them, posture rigid, eyes sharp. Former military. Crew cut. The kind of men who notices everything. On one screen, Becky moves down a hallway, carrying a tray of ingredients. Dave leans closer. It's not what she's carrying, it's how she carries it. The straightness of her back. The subtle way her gaze scans the room. Every movement precise, deliberate. Not like a cook. Not like anyone they've ever hired. He pulls up her employment file. Maria Santos. No prior culinary employment. No social media presence. No digital footprint whatsoever. Dave frowns. He types, runs a facial recognition search. Error, no match found. Everyone has a digital footprint. Unless someone deliberately erased it. He picks up his phone. Yeah, it's Morrison. Run a deep background check. Maria Santos. New cook. Something about her doesn't add up. On the monitor, Becky pauses mid-step. Looks up, almost directly at the camera. Then lowers her gaze and continues moving through the kitchen corridors, chopping, measuring, cooking. 2 months in. Becky moves through Isabella's suite, arranging breakfast trays, chopping fruits, preparing coffee. Precision in every gesture. Isabella storms in, phone pressed to her ear, assistant trailing behind. Of course I'll chair the gala, she says smoothly. The Kong name deserves center stage. She snaps her fingers. Water. Sparkling. Lime, not lemon. And wash your hands before touching anything. Becky nods and exits. In the kitchen, she prepares the drinks. Her hands tremble slightly, not from fear. From restraint. From suppressed fury. Mrs. Park appears, silent but watchful. 2 months. You're still here. I told you. I need the job, Becky replies evenly. No one needs a job this badly. No one endures what she puts you through for minimum wage. Becky doesn't answer. I've worked for wealthy families 40 years, Mrs. Park continues. I've seen cooks. You are not a cook, Maria. Becky meets her gaze fully. I don't know what you are. But I know what you're not. A long silence accrues. Even if that's true, would it matter? That depends on why you're here. Becky lifts a glass of water, looks at the older woman. I'm here because I need to know if the people in that mansion, the ones with all the power, deserve to have it. Mrs. Park's expression softens. Understanding dawns. And what have you learned? That the woman upstairs treats people like garbage. And that her husband is nothing like her. And I don't understand how they exist in the same house. Mrs. Park takes the glass. Then keep watching. The answer will come. She walks away, leaving Becky standing alone. Becky approached Tammin Kang's study with a tray in hand, her instructions simple: clean, straighten, disappear. But she stopped in the doorway. Tammin sat behind his desk, shoulders slumped, head bowed. Before him lay a stack of papers. Divorce documents. His pen hovered above the signature line as if it weighed 1,000 pounds. He sensed her presence. Maria. I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean to intrude. No. Come in. She hesitates, then enters. Closes the door behind her. Do you know what these are? He asks, gesturing to the papers. Becky stays silent. I've had them drawn up 6 times, he continued. 6 times I've sat here like this. 6 times I've almost signed. He let out a hollow laugh. And 6 times I've put them back in the drawer. Why? She asked softly. Because I'm a coward, he said bitterly. Because divorce is messy. Because the board prefers the illusion of stability. Because admitting failure, even when it isn't your fault, feels like weakness. Becky stepped closer. And for just a second, she forgot to be Maria. With respect, sir, staying in something broken isn't strength. It's just another kind of hiding. The words hung between them. Tammin looked at her. Really looked at her. And something shifted. You're not really a cook, are you, Maria? Her pulse spiked. But she did not look away. Sir. He stood slowly, circling the desk. I've negotiated with heads of state. I've built an empire from nothing. I know how to read people. He stopped in front of her. You speak like someone who's commanded boardrooms. You hold yourself like someone who owns every room she walks into. And your eyes. He leaned slightly closer. They don't belong to someone who serves. They belong to someone who leads. Silence. Thick. Charged. Finally. How long have you known? She asked quietly. A small smile tugged at his mouth. I suspected the night I found you in the library. Dave confirmed it last week. He walked back to his desk and picked up a folder. He handed it to her. Becky opened it. Her life stared back at her. Press clippings. Financial breakdowns. Photographs from Bennett Global Headquarters. Her name. Becky Bennett. CEO. Net worth, $3.8 billion. Tammin crossed his arms. So, he said calmly, would you like to explain why one of the most powerful young executives in America has been cooking breakfast in my kitchen for 2 months? The mask fell. Not dramatically. Not angrily. Simply, precisely. Becky straightened. And Maria disappeared. Bennett Global was approached about a partnership with Cannes Luxury Hotels, she began evenly. $200 million. Tammin nodded. My people have been negotiating with your people. Your people, she corrected. Your numbers. Your reports. She moved toward the window overlooking the estate. My father taught me that you learn everything you need to know about someone by watching how they treat people who can't fight back. Service workers. Cooks. Maids. She turned back to him. So I became one. Tammin studied her carefully. And what did you see? She didn't soften it. I saw a woman who humiliates people for sport. Who enjoys power in its ugliest form. Who shouldn't be trusted with a houseplant, let alone a corporate alliance. She paused. And I saw a man who is nothing like her. He didn't interrupt. A man whose staff respect him. A man who speaks to employees like they are human beings. A man who stopped to talk to a cook in his library instead of ordering her out. Their eyes locked. The investment was for Cannes Luxury Hotels, she said quietly. But my real evaluation was about the Cannes who runs it. And your conclusion, he asked. She nodded slowly. I have my answer. Silence stretched between them. Then. Tammin laughed. Not bitter. Not defensive. Genuinely impressed. I've been audited by governments, he said. Investigated by competitors. Scrutinized by the IRS. But I've never been evaluated quite like this. Are you angry? She asked. I should be, he admitted. You deceived my household. Entered my home under false pretenses. He stepped closer. But I find I'm mostly impressed. A pause. And relieved. Relieved. That someone finally confirmed what I've been trying to ignore for 20 years. He picked up the divorce papers again. My wife is. He couldn't finish. Becky did. A monster. He exhaled. Yes. He looked at the signature line. You asked me why I don't sign. The truth? Isabella is careful. Cruel in private. Flawless in public. If I leave her quietly, she'll spin the story. I'll be the villain. The husband who abandoned his wife. He set the papers down. I've been waiting for the right moment. Becky's eyes sharpened. She understood what he wasn't saying. The charity gala, she said softly. His gaze lifted. The biggest social event of the year. Media. Investors. Society elites. Every major player in New York will be there. A dangerous glint flickered in his eyes. She spent months planning it. It's meant to be her crowning achievement. Becky felt the strategy forming in real time. Becky nods, understanding dawning. And if something were to happen at that gala? Something public. Undeniable. Something that shows the world exactly who she is. He extends his hand. I believe, Ms. Bennett, we might be able to help each other. Becky looks at the hand. Looks at the man offering it. She takes it. Tell me about this gala. Becky insisted, trying to listen carefully in order to fit in. 3 days before the gala. Isabella is surrounded by 3 assistants, hair, makeup, nails. Gowns discarded one by one. Frustration mounts. Becky enters quietly with a tray of fresh ingredients and towels. She's Maria again, unseen, unheard, invisible. Isabella catches her reflection in the mirror. A cruel smile spreads across her face. Maria. Come here. Becky approaches, eyes down. I've just had the most wonderful idea, Isabella says, predatory. She circles Becky slowly, assessing, sizing up. You've been such a dedicated employee. So hard-working. So patient with my little corrections. She stops, leans closer. I think you deserve a reward. I'm going to invite you to the charity gala. The assistants exchange nervous glances. Mrs. Kong, I couldn't possibly, Becky starts, playing the part. Oh, but you must. It's for charity, after all. Service workers supporting service workers, Isabella interrupts, her laugh sharp, ugly. Of course, you'll need something to wear. Something appropriate. In the donation bin. Humble. Suitable for a cook, she adds, eyes glinting with malice. She gestures to her assistant. Diane, make sure Maria is seated at the servants' table. I want everyone to see how charitable I am, giving opportunities to the less fortunate. Becky keeps her expression neutral, subservient. But inside, she's smiling. Victory flares quietly across her face. Thank you, Mrs. Kong. You're very generous, she says softly. She turns to leave. Pauses at the door for just a second. A flicker in her eyes. Something Isabella doesn't see. Something that says this cook is not what she seems. Victory. Becky adjusted the white apron around her waist, glancing at the polished kitchen counters of the Kong mansion. The gala was 2 days away, and every detail mattered. Mrs. Park sat across from her at the small table in Becky's temporary apartment, while Dave Morrison flipped through security footage on his laptop. Marcus Chen's face appeared in a small video call window. Taman Kong leaned back, calm, almost serene. Becky, are you sure about this? Marcus asked, voice tense. The exposure risk. It's calculated, Becky said, voice steady. And necessary. She swiped her tablet, bringing up charts, photos, and notes she had painstakingly compiled over 3 months. Her fingers hovered over the screen. 47 incidents of verbal abuse, 12 instances of wage theft, 6 assaults on the staff. All documented. Dave nodded. I've got security footage backing most of that. Mrs. Kong likes to forget the cameras exist. Mrs. Park's voice was quiet but firm. We all forget. That's the only way to survive here. Not anymore, Becky said, meeting each of their eyes. After tomorrow night, no one else has to survive Isabella Kong. Taman Kong leaned forward slightly. I've been ready for 20 years. I was just waiting for someone brave enough to light the match. Becky nodded, the weight of the moment pressing down on her. Then let's go over the plan. One more time, from the top. Late that night, in the servants' quarters, Becky sat on her small cot. The other kitchen staff slept around her. She studied her hands, calloused from months of real work, heat from stoves and knives leaving faint scars, the physical proof of her undercover journey. Mrs. Park appeared quietly, sitting down beside her. Tomorrow, this ends, she said. Yes, Becky whispered. When you first came here, Mrs. Park continued, I thought you were a reporter. Or a spy. Or maybe just a rich girl playing games. And now? Becky asked softly. Mrs. Park was silent for a long moment. I think, you're the first person in 20 years who truly saw us. The cooks, the servers, the staff who keep this house running. And how she treats us like we're nothing. Her voice thickened. I've watched dozens of girls come through here. Bright, hopeful girls. Girls broken by her. Girls who quit crying. Girls who ran away. And then you came. And you didn't break. Becky shook her head slightly. Maybe because I knew it wasn't permanent. No, Mrs. Park said firmly. It's because you're strong. And because you knew it mattered. What happens tomorrow, it matters to all of us. Every cook yelled at for a burnt sauce. Every server screamed at for a misplaced fork. You're going to give them a voice. Don't waste it. Becky squeezed her hand. I won't. The night of the gala arrived. Spotlight swept the sky above the Metropolitan Museum of Art. A red carpet stretched toward the grand entrance, where limousines disgorged New York's elite. Paparazzi flashed cameras, shouting questions. The banner read, Kong Foundation Charity Gala, and Evening of Elegance. Inside, Isabella Kong moved through her court of assistants, radiant in a crimson Valentino gown, greeting guests with predatory charm. Taman stood nearby, distant and composed. A waiter leaned in, whispered something. Isabella's smile sharpened. Our little cook has arrived, she said to her assistant, voice dripping with mockery. Make sure the cameras catch it. Outside, a black Mercedes glided to a stop. The door opened. A crystal-encrusted Jimmy Choo heel hit the pavement, followed by a shimmering gold gown. Becky stepped out. She was breathtaking, transcendent, Versace gown, diamonds in her hair, Cartier necklace glittering. She moved with authority, not just elegance. The press went silent for a stunned moment. Then chaos erupted. Becky Bennett. Becky Bennett is here. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted her name. Becky paused at the top of the steps, smiled faintly, and began her descent. Inside, Isabella froze, color draining from her face. No, that's impossible, she whispered. Taman caught Becky's eye, raised his champagne glass, and smiled. Becky moved directly toward Isabella, the crowd parting instinctively before her. 3 feet apart. Becky stopped. Close enough to whisper, close enough to destroy. Maria. Isabella stammered, trembling. My name is Becky Bennett, Becky said calmly. Cook. CEO of Bennett Global Industries. Forbes 30 under 30. Net worth $3.8 billion. She let it sink. For the past 3 months, I've been working in your home. As your cook. Gasps swept the room. Phones lifted. Cameras recorded. I was conducting due diligence, Becky continued. Your husband's company was negotiating with mine. $200 million. I wanted to see, firsthand, who I'd be working with. Well, this is unconventional, Isabella said, trying to laugh. You mean like you pretend? Becky interrupted. Pretend to be charitable while treating your staff like dirt. Pretend to be kind when cameras are on, a monster when they're off. The room went silent. I watched you for 3 months, Becky said. I saw you throw hot coffee on a cook because it wasn't right. I saw you scream at servers until they cried, then fire them. I documented it all. She held up her phone. 47 incidents of verbal abuse. 12 instances of wage theft. 6 assaults. Would anyone like to see the footage? Isabella lunged for the phone. Becky stepped back. Calm, unshakable. You wanted to humiliate me, Becky said softly, voice sharp as a knife. To show everyone where I belong. I already knew where I belonged, in your kitchen, seeing everything. I belong wherever I choose. Dignity isn't about money, gowns, or diamonds. Dignity is how you treat people who can do nothing for you. And by that measure, Isabella, you have none. The room fell silent, suffocating in its intensity. Isabella stood exposed, her perfect mask shattered, hands trembling, eyes wild with fury and humiliation. Then a voice cut through the tension. She's right. Heads turned. Tam Kong stepped forward, moving to Becky's side. Calm, composed, but there was steel beneath the surface. Tam, what are you? Isabella stammered, disbelief turning to panic. I've been married to this woman for 20 years, Tam said, voice steady, eyes locking on hers. And in that time, I've watched her destroy lives. Employees. Friends. Anyone she deemed beneath her. He looked at her as though for the first time. I stayed silent. I told myself it was for the business, for appearances, 100 excuses that were really just cowardice. Tam reached into his jacket and pulled out a document. His hand extended toward Isabella. Not anymore. She stared at it, confused, her perfectly manicured fingers trembling. What is this? Divorce papers, he said simply. Signed this morning. You can't do this. You can't, she screamed. It's already done, he said. He turned to the crowd, voice loud enough for everyone to hear. I want to apologize. To everyone in this room. To everyone who ever worked in my home and suffered because I didn't have the courage to stop it. Then he looked at Becky. It took a stranger, a woman brave enough to see the truth, to remind me what integrity looks like. Thank you. Becky took his hand, and in that simple touch passed a current of respect, recognition, and something more. Isabella's composure finally snapped. No. No, no, she screamed, grabbing a champagne glass from a passing waiter and hurling it at Becky. Becky ducked instinctively, the glass shattered against a pillar, spraying champagne and crystal shards. You did this. You ruined everything. Isabella roared, lunging toward her. Tam stepped between them, calm but resolute. Security closed in. I'll destroy you. I'll destroy all of you. Do you know who I am? Isabella shrieked, clawing at the air, mascara streaking down her face. Yes, Becky said quietly, devastatingly, we all do now. The guards restrained Isabella, leading her toward the exit. Her perfect world crumbled around her. The room erupted, not in mockery, but in something rarer. Applause. Slow at first. Then growing. Then thunderous. 800 of New York's elite, standing, clapping for the cook who had just exposed one of their own. Not because they were angels, but because they respected true power. Becky stood in the center of the storm, Tam at her side, a small, triumphant smile playing on her lips for the first time that night. 6 months later, Becky stood on the terrace of her Manhattan penthouse. The city stretched below, a kingdom of glass and steel. Tam joined her, offering a cup of coffee. They stood in easy silence, two people who had built something real from chaos. The press is still calling it the gala takedown of the century, he said, shaking his head with a smile. They'll find something else to obsess over eventually, Becky replied, calm. How's Isabella? He asked, his voice sobering. Relocated to Europe, Tam said. No one will do business with her. No invitations. She's become exactly what she feared most, invisible. Becky nodded, feeling no joy in it, only quiet satisfaction. And the staff. Mrs. Park runs the household now. Better pay, better conditions, respect, Tam said. Dave got a raise and a formal apology. You did that. He handed her a small velvet box. She frowned. Not a ring, he said quickly. Not yet. Inside was a keycard. Becky raised an eyebrow. Access to Kong Luxury Hotel's executive floor, Tammin explained. Full partner status. If you still want the partnership, that is. Becky looked at him. And the other kind of partnership? His expression softened. That one. I was hoping we could discuss over dinner. Tonight. And maybe every night after that. She smiled, stepping closer. Taking his hand. I think I'd like that. Together, they looked out over the city, two people who had found each other in the most unlikely of places, building something honest and true from the ashes of falsehood. Later that evening, at the inaugural gala for the Bennett Foundation, Becky stepped onto the stage. Service workers mingled with executives, maids stood beside socialites, everyone equal, everyone visible. 6 months ago, Becky began, voice strong, carrying across the grand ballroom. I stood in a different ballroom. I was a cook in a mansion, invisible to everyone but the cameras. I learned something invaluable watching, documenting, understanding, not for revenge, but for truth. She looked across the crowd. The measure of a person isn't wealth. It's how they treat those who serve them. I founded this foundation to support service workers, education, healthcare, legal protection, and above all, visibility. Because these are the people who make the world run. And they deserve to be seen. She extended her hand, and Mrs. Park stepped onto the stage, standing beside her. We all do, Becky said. Applause thundered, growing until the room shook. She looked at Tammin, watching with pride. Marcus wiped his eyes. Dave stood tall. And every worker who had ever been silenced finally had a voice. Becky wasn't just a CEO. Not just a billionaire. She was someone who had remembered where she came from and honored it. The gala wound down. Music floated through the air as Becky found Tammin on the terrace, staring at the stars. Hiding from the party you helped fund, she asked, teasing. Observing. There's a difference, he said, smiling. She joined him at the railing. You know, when you first walked into my library, when I thought you were a cook, I felt something. Something I couldn't explain. What was it, she asked. Recognition, he said. Like meeting someone I was supposed to know. I didn't know your name, your net worth. I just knew you were real. In a world of performances, you were present. Even when you were pretending. She smiled, softly. That's the woman I fell in love with, he said. Not the CEO. Not the billionaire. Just, you. I love you too, Becky said. He pulled her close. Their kiss was soft, real, a promise. The music from inside drifted out to them. Somewhere, Mrs. Park laughed. Dave danced awkwardly. Marcus had an emotional conversation. And Becky, the cook who had gone undercover to expose the truth, held the men who valued worth over wealth. The city stretched endlessly below them. A kingdom of possibility. Final title cards. The Bennett Foundation has provided support to over 50,000 service workers in its first year. Isabella Kang's whereabouts remain unknown. Mrs. Park was named Director of Household Operations for Kong Luxury Hotels. Becky and Tammin Kong were married the following spring. They are expecting their first child. She displayed a photograph on her desk in her cook's uniform, standing next to Mrs. Park, both smiling. A reminder of where she found her purpose. The end. Kindly like, subscribe and comment below. What do you think would have been your best way of reacting to Isabella's cruelty?